Now, if you're a hardcore gamer, just stop watching now. If you're an average user, then perk them ears up and listen in. Now, I've talked about this before, but I wanted to show you how some of the old computers that I'm using and some computers that you can still buy used online are still a great value in 2020, and how most people are still wasting their money. In nature, evolution is inevitable. Most of the time it proceeds at a snail's pace. Technology, on the other hand, evolves at an exponential rate. Along with the quick pace of technology, most people thirst for the next greatest thing. Now recently, AMD released some of their new processors. AMD and Nvidia are having this battle over the next generation video cards. I should say supposed cards, because if you can't really buy one, do they actually exist? Now, to marvel how humans move on from one thing to the next. So today I'm going to look at an old relic that most people would kind of dismiss in 2020. Now, can this 13-year-old computer still be good enough? Can it still be relevant? Anyway, I'm going to show you some examples of computers that I have and computers that still exist out there that you can still get and use now. So during these times, some people may be strapped for money. This is a great deal, and even if you're not strapped for money, you got to think about, why am I using this computer? What am I using this computer for? So let's go over what I'd be looking for. Number one, it won't always be for around $20. $20 is where I try to get the best deal. Most of the time what I see for a good desktop is for around $40 to $50, around that point. But you can always bargain down, so you can get a little cheaper. For laptops, anywhere between $50 to $100 is going to be worth it. You're going to have the components that you need. And again, I always try to bargain down a little bit, not lowball them, because then you kind of, put them off. But I try to give them a fair deal. So for example, for most of the $100 computers, I'll offer maybe $75 or $80. Occasionally you can get lucky and get a monitor and peripherals, so the mouse and keyboard put in with that. So sometimes you can get lucky with that. Now, here's what I'm looking for in terms of specs. So the processor, I'd be looking for at least a dual core. Dual core, I think, is paramount for the computer to run as smoothly as possible. I personally like the Core 2 Duos because the upgrade path on that LGA 775 is fantastic. You got to be careful on the Core 2 Quads because not all the chipsets on some of these older computers can take that Core 2 Quad. So you just have to do your research and check out what chipsets on that particular motherboard. Also, the Athlon 64x2 should be fine. Now, discrete graphics card is not necessary, but if you want to do some light gaming like Roblox and things like that, you can pick one up for even $10 to $20. Now, if Windows 10 is your thing, then having at least 4 gigabytes of RAM in there, and it could be DDR2 RAM, that's fine, is essential, I think. I think the minimum specs are probably around 2 gigabytes for Windows 10, but I find it runs quite slow on that. Now, if you do have a computer that you find that has 2 gigabytes, then that's fine. I would go get that. You can upgrade it for a small amount, or just keep it at 2 gigabytes and think about installing maybe a light Linux OS. Things like Ubuntu still run a little bit heavy and they use a lot of resources, so 4 gigabytes I'd still recommend. But say Linux Lite, which is my personal favorite, there's plenty out there that you can choose from, so choose which one that you like. If you're using a lot of web-based apps, like our school system here in the York region uses a lot of Google Suites, so their Google version of Word, PowerPoint, Excel, that kind of thing. And their Zoom meetings run fine on these old computers. Now, SSD is not necessary, but thinking about who's using it. So if it's a kid using it, they're used to their phone or something like that. That's pretty snappy. If you're running, a hard drive and it takes a little while for it to boot up, again, with my kids, you'll see that they'll be pressing that click, 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 that left mouse button, and they'll be saying, nothing's happening, Dad. You just have to wait. That's what I used to do when we first started computers. We just waited for it to happen. But these kids, they can't wait. So an SSD might be worth it just for a little frustration management. Now, my daughter currently does all her Zoom meetings, like I said, all her schoolwork on this 13-year-old computer. And she even plays the games that she likes, like Roblox. This is a computer I bought over 10 years ago, but it's actually around 13 years old. So when I paid for it at Canada Computers, it was refurbished. It was $180. Now it's probably worth more, like up to maybe $30. Now the specs on the computer are as follows. Running Windows 10, it's got an AMD Athlon 64x2 4800 plus running at 2.5 gigahertz, 4 gigabytes of DDR2 RAM running at 667 megahertz, a 128 gigabyte HP SSD, which I thought was a nice touch in an HP computer. The original was a mechanical hard drive of, I can't remember how big. The last thing that I did put in a while ago was this AMD HD 5450. It's a 1 gigabyte DDR3 video card, which again just helps a little bit. Really, when you're using this computer, you would not know it's such an old computer by the way it functions. Now, I'm one of the cheapest guys out there, so my opinion on this may not be popular, and people will be like, oh, you should use this OS, you could do this spec, and there's a lot of choices, what I'm saying. I got this computer in the back there for my older daughter who likes to game a little bit with me. We play like COD Warzone together. That is an old refurbished desktop computer that I turned into a gaming computer, which you can see in the link card down below or up here. I did get all that stuff used, and I think for probably around $250 or $300 Canadian dollars. So again, US dollars, it's this much, where I'm going to put that there. That you don't have to get the latest and greatest to do what you want and have fun. Now, it's not like I don't get into the hype. Like when Apple introduced their neural engine with this M1 chip. I hate Apples, but I might get an Apple just to get that M1 chip, and it sounds really cool. Oh, joke of the day. How does the moon cut its hair? Eclipse it, just like us. Get it? Eclipse? Like he clips it just like us. Eclipse. I thought that was a good one. If you made it to the end, thank you. My rambling can go on, especially when I'm so passionate about these old and used computers and not wasting money. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next Ladybug adventure, I hope.